Hello, hi. Welcome back to our Kubernetes series. Today, we'll be going to cover what is Kubernetes, and we'll be seeing why do we need a Kubernetes, and also the concepts within the Kubernetes, like Kubernetes cluster and the core components of the Kubernetes with respect to the control plane and worker node. And also, we'll be seeing how the workflow of Kubernetes, how exactly the KX works, and popular features of Kubernetes and real world analysis, and a quick wrap up of this particular video. So here, understanding Kubernetes, like what exactly is Kubernetes, is very much important. So I will be walking through all the concepts, whatever I just shown you, in a simple manner and visually stunning and clear idea you will get after watching this particular video. On high level, we'll be seeing a container orchestration platform, which is Kubernetes, and what exactly the cluster architecture looks, and quite popular features of Kubernetes like auto scaling and self healing, and how exactly the Kubernetes workflow like kubectl API server and communicate with the target nodes and all. Okay, so yeah, first of all, what is Kubernetes? A simple definition. Kubernetes is one of the container orchestration platform. What exactly that means was it is going to automatically manage your containers, so you don't have to manage that manually. And also it helps to deploy and scale automatically. That means it is going to tell the containers where to run and when to scale up and when to scale down the containers. And also it is going to work across the many missions. That means it is going to run your application on the whole cluster of your services, or not only just one particular container. Okay, so it is going to run a whole cluster. Okay, and the next thing was it is a open source and industry standard. That means it was developed by Google, and now it was used by across the industry standards. Many of the companies like Netflix, Amazon, Microsoft. Okay, and here a simple, like, a kind of a note why exactly Kubernetes is called as K8s. Why? Because Kubernetes, this particular word, has a 8 letters, and in between K and S there is a 8 letters. Okay, if you see, U was the one letter, two, three, four, five, six, seven, eight. Okay, K 8 letters and S. So that is just a kind of a short word for the Kubernetes K8s. Okay, and here is the right hand side, whatever you are seeing this architecture, this is the high level architecture diagram of the Kubernetes, how exactly a centralized managed cluster looks like. This is the Kubernetes cluster. Okay, and in that there is a worker node and control manager, and in that particular nodes there is a containers, kubelet, kubeproxy. We'll be seeing that in upcoming video, what exactly that in detail. Okay, and here, I mean, we just seen what exactly the Kubernetes was. Okay, it is just a orchestration platform, and it is going to deploy and scale the containers automatically, and it works at many missions, like multiple missions, we can say, and works across the multiple missions. Okay, and it is a open source tool. Okay, now let us see why do we need a Kubernetes? The use of Kubernetes, being a DevOps or DevSecOps or developer. Okay, what exactly it brings a advantage? Let's say apps obviously need to scale whenever there is a new users or users are increasing. Okay, so here there is a lot of difference, right? Whenever there is 100 users versus 1 million users, there is a lot need of resources, system resources, okay, to serve the traffic and all. Okay, so that is why exactly Kubernetes required. And here the containers will fail. That means applications will crash within that particular containers, and the servers will dry. So we need to automatically recover with zero manual work. So that is why exactly the Kubernetes is required. And also, especially for managing the containers manually is a quite big challenge and chaos thing. Let's say, for example, 50 containers across 10 servers is humanly impossible. Okay, and it is a difficult and tedious task. So that is where exactly the Kubernetes was required. And also we need a automation, especially for deployment purpose, scaling purpose, restart, and load balancing. All is going to done automatically by the help of Kubernetes. So here, one final solution achieved by the Kubernetes was it is going to handle all the task was whatever we have discussed in this list. It is going to handle it automatically, and there is no manual efforts required. So here on the right hand side, you can see what exactly the problems we are going to get in the real world and how the Kubernetes solves. Let's say, for example, we have 100 users, then obviously one pod is enough to serve the traffic for the users. Let's say we have 10,000 users, then we need to obviously increase the traffic, right? I mean, to accept the traffic, we need to increase the pods. So in that case, we need to go with 5 pods. Let's say we have a 1 million user requests. In that case, we need to obviously go with 50 plus pods. So here is where exactly the Kubernetes comes and automatically handles these particular growing app problems. So that is why exactly Kubernetes was required. Now let us see the concept of cluster. So basically, cluster is one of the components within the Kubernetes. There is a multiple components within the Kubernetes. We'll be discussing one by one in upcoming videos, and also we'll be seeing on a high level in this particular video also. First of all, a cluster is a group of missions where it is going to work together as a single system. And this is what exactly here on the right hand side you can see the Kubernetes architecture diagram where there is a control plane and the worker nodes. So here these control plane and worker nodes resides within the cluster. Okay, so here is the definition for cluster. That means it is a group of missions where it is going to work together as a single mission. And now coming to the nodes. So whatever the worker node is it. So worker nodes are the basically missions that might be a physical servers or a virtual servers. Within the cluster, these nodes are present. Now coming to the control plane. Okay, control plane is like a brain of the Kubernetes where it is going to make all the decisions with respect to the monitoring, with respect to the self-healing, with respect to the scheduling the containers. Everything is managed and maintained by the control plane itself. And here the worker nodes. Worker nodes are actually the target servers which actually does the work on behalf of the control plane. Control plane is just basically giving a or assigning a task to the worker nodes, and worker nodes actually executing that particular tasks. And here, on a non-technical analogy, you can say like control plane works. Let's say if you take a restaurant example, control plane here works as a restaurant manager. Okay, where he is not going to work at the end, but he is going to direct the task to the end staff, that might be kitchen staff or serving staff, someone. Okay, so here control plane is the restaurant manager and worker node is the kitchen staff. Now let us see the components within that particular Kubernetes. First thing we need to see was control plane. Within the control plane we have four important components. One was API server. Basically, API server was like a front door where each and every request goes through here, and that particular API server is going to communicate to the target Kubernetes with the help of kubectl commands. And then the second component was scheduler. Basically, scheduler is going to decide what exactly nodes runs which containers. Basically, it is a kind of a small placement. And the third component was controller manager. So controller manager basically watches the cluster and it is going to ensure the desired state is always maintained, like number of replicas or whatever the desired state we as a user that need to be managed based upon the configurations. So this controller manager is responsible for taking care of that. And the final important component within the control plane was etcd. Etcd is the database basically. It is like a memory where it is going to store all the data and the configuration. It is like a key value pair which was stored within that particular control plane as one of the single component. These are the four important components within the control plane. Now let us see the worker components. First thing was kubelet. Kubelet is the node agent. So it is basically receives the orders from the control plane. That means the master node, and it runs the pods. And then the second component was container runtime. Container runtime is actually runs the containers. So there are multiple container runtimes like Docker, there is a containerd and CRI container runtime. There are multiple open source also available. And then the next component was kubeproxy. Kubeproxy is it is especially for managing and maintaining the network routing. Let's say how exactly the traffic flows in your to your right container. So this particular traffic, I mean network configuration maintenance is done by the kubeproxy. This resides within the worker node. And then the final component was pod. Pod is basically a smallest unit within the Kubernetes. So a pod can have one or more containers also. Okay, at least one should be there, and more than one also can be contained. So these are the high-level components within the control plane and the worker nodes. Now let us see how exactly the Kubernetes works, like the workflow of Kubernetes. First thing was on an right-hand side, you can see on a high level how the flow works. First thing, kubectl apply. That means it is going to talk with the API server. Then API server will talk to the scheduler, and scheduler will perform the, I mean, give the task to the node. worker node basically, where the pod is running. Okay. Now let us see in depth a kind of one liner definitions or how exactly the Kubernetes works with respect to these particular points. First the user runs certain commands, kubectl basically. Kubectl was the CLI interface to interact with the Kubernetes cluster. Okay. So let's say the user runs a kubectl apply command. So that means you as a user you are saying Kubernetes, I want three pods running my application. Okay, so then this particular request is going to receive to the API server, and it is going to be validated also, that particular request, and it is going to check if the request is valid. If it is not valid request, then and there it shows the error, and then it shows the that particular database into the etcd. Etcd is the database where it shows the, I mean, it shows the key value databases in that particular component. And then once the API server receives and validates the request, and then it goes to the third component, which is scheduler. So basically scheduler picks the best node. That means it is going to find the node that has enough CPU, enough memory to run that particular pod, that means that particular job. Okay, and then the request, I mean, then it goes to the kubectl runs the container. Okay, that means it is going to, I mean, the worker node will pulls the image and then it starts the container. That means once the image is in the running state, then that will be called as a container. And finally, here case will monitor and self-heal forever. That means if anything breaks, Kubernetes will automatically fixes it on a round clock, 24/7. Okay. So on a high level, this is how exactly Kubernetes works, a kind of a step-by-step flow. Okay, and starting from user request till the self-healing of Kubernetes future. Now let us see some popular features of Kubernetes. First thing was self auto-scaling. Auto-scaling is basically adding a additional containers based upon the incoming traffic load. There is a two types of load balancing, sorry, auto-scaling: horizontal pod autoscaler and vertical pod autoscaler. Horizontal pod autoscaler basically increasing the number of containers with the same specifications. Okay, and vertical pod autoscaler is basically increasing the container, that particular container size, storage, and RAM to efficiently handle that particular task. And then the second feature was self-healing feature. That means it is going to detect the crashed containers and restart them instantly. There is no manual efforts are required to restart them. And then the third feature was load balancing. That means based upon the incoming traffic, it is going to split, I mean, split that particular traffic into the actual healthy available containers. It is a built-in feature actually. And then the third feature was rolling update. That means it is going to deploy a new application version with zero downtime, and it is going to roll out one pod at a time. Basically, rolling update in the sense, if there is an existing application was deployed and we want to go with new application with added features or something. Okay, so in that case, it is going to gradually replace the existing application with the new application without any downtime. There is a zero downtime. That is the one key feature we can say. And then the next feature was declarative configuration. That means you are going to define what exactly the configuration or desired state or replica sets, how many count. Within the proper defined YAML script. YAML is a yet another markup file where you are going to specify a kind of configurations to the Kubernetes. So this is what I want. So Kubernetes was going to done on behalf of you. Okay. Declarative and imperative was the two configurations, where the imperative is basically giving a each and every configuration through the command, and declarative is basically giving a entire configurations in a YAML script and running that particular YAML script or applying that particular YAML script. And then the final feature was multi-cloud ready. That means you can run on any of the cloud platform like AWS, Azure, GCP, and your own database also. Okay, so here Kubernetes is going to serve that particular use case in any of the portable instances also. Okay, so these are the on an high level kind of key features with respect to the Kubernetes, and a kind of real world analogy and like a quick recap about this particular video. One thing was what we just discussed was containers, nodes, and Kubernetes. Basically, containers, it is just like a workers, end workers. So each does one specific job, and it runs your application. One serves your database, or one serves your front end, and one serves your back end. Each and every container does a individual work. Okay, and then the nodes. Nodes are the actual workplaces. So that might be a physical mission or a virtual mission or a, I mean, the cloud instance also. Wherever your workers live, this particular workplace is called as a nodes. And then the finally Kubernetes. basically a smart manager where it is going to know what exactly and where exactly it was working and how to solve the problems also. And at scale demand also, it is going to resolve. So that is what exactly we are going to achieve with the Kubernetes. And one thing here was Kubernetes is the smart manager where it is going to keep all your containers running perfectly. So you don't have to manage them manually. Okay. So what exactly we learned in this particular video was we seen what exactly the Kubernetes was and a kind of high level understanding of component parts with respect to the control plane, with respect to the worker nodes, and how exactly the Kubernetes workflow like receiving starting from receiving the request from the user until health check and management for the Kubernetes. And the core features like quite popular features of Kubernetes, especially the scaling, self-healing, load balancing. We have seen that particular. In the upcoming video, we are going to see what exactly the difference between Kubernetes and Docker Swarm, a deep comparison, when to use Docker Swarm and when to use Kubernetes. We'll be seeing that in the upcoming video, and I hope so you found certain useful output out of this particular video. And stay tuned for more videos. Thank you so much for watching, and all the best for your learning.